Sometimes the most revealing moments happen when nobody expects them. It wasn't a scripted segment. It wasn't a planned tearjerker. It was a birthday video from their dog. And yet, when Mark Consuelos sat at that desk on a Monday morning and watched a photo of Lena move its mouth and say, "Happy birthday, Daddy," something shifted. His eyes welled up. His voice caught. And for a few seconds, one of daytime television's most confident, unshakable hosts looked completely unguarded. "Is it weird that I got emotional?" he asked, almost embarrassed by his own reaction. "Who am I? What's happened to me?" Kelly Ripa, sitting beside him, didn't tease him for long. She laughed. Sure, that's what she does. But underneath the laughter was something warmer. Recognition. 29 years of marriage will do that. You learn exactly what your person looks like when they're trying not to cry, and you learn exactly how much space to give them before you gently poke fun at it. That's the thing about Kelly&Mark that keeps pulling people back in morning after morning. It's not the celebrity guests. It's not the games or the giveaways. It's that audiences are watching two people who have known each other since they were in their 20s, still figuring out, in real time, how to be married in front of a camera. Think about what that actually requires. Most couples get to have their inside jokes, their arguments, their soft moments in private. Kelly&Mark do it live, 5 mornings a week, in front of millions of people who feel like they've been personally invited into the relationship. There's no editing room to smooth over an awkward silence. There's no retake if one of them says something a little too honest. Whatever happens between them at that desk happens. And maybe that's exactly why viewers trust it. We live in an era where so much of what we see from celebrities feels curated within an inch of its life. The perfect caption, the perfect angle, the perfect answer. Kelly&Mark's dynamic doesn't really work that way because it can't. You can't fake 29 years of familiarity. You can't rehearse the specific way Mark rolls his eyes right before Kelly says something that's about to get them both in trouble. You can't manufacture the timing of two people who have genuinely built a life together, raised 3 kids together, buried a parent together, and somehow still choose to walk into that studio and do it all again the next morning. That birthday moment with Lena is such a small thing in the grand scheme of a news cycle. No headline stayed on it for more than a day. But it's worth sitting with, because it tells you something real about Mark Consuelos that 100 red carpet interviews wouldn't. Here's a guy who spent decades in soap operas and superhero shows, someone whose whole professional life has, in some ways, trained him to perform emotion convincingly. And in that moment he wasn't performing anything. He was just a man who got choked up over his dog, in front of an audience, next to the person who's watched him be soft in 100 unguarded moments nobody else ever saw. There's a reason viewers latched onto it the way they did. It's the same reason so many people felt something when Kelly turned to Mark weeks earlier and gently talked him, or rather talked herself, out of getting a nose ring 2 decades ago. Small, funny, throwaway stories. But they're small, funny, throwaway stories that only exist because two people have spent enough years together to still be surprising each other, still bringing up old memories mid-conversation, still finishing each other's thoughts without meaning to. That's a different kind of chemistry than the kind you usually see on television. It's not built for the cameras. It just happens to be captured by them. Go back further to February of this year, when Kelly marked 25 years on the show. It would have been easy to make that anniversary about her career milestones, the awards, the record-tying run, the fact that she's now spent a quarter of a century waking up before dawn to sit behind that desk. Instead, the moment that actually landed with viewers was watching her son Michael walk out with flowers, followed by video messages from Lola and Joaquin, both of whom couldn't be there in person. Lola, watching from London, told her mother how proud she was of the life she'd built, not just for herself but for all 3 of her kids and for Mark. Notice what that says. The anniversary wasn't framed, even by their own family, as Kelly's career. It was framed as something the 4 of them built together. That's not an accident. That's a family that has spent years talking about the show not as Kelly's job that Mark eventually joined, but as something that belongs to all of them. A shared project, the same way the house they live in or the kids they raised belong to all of them. And that's really the emotional through line of Kelly&Mark's story, isn't it? Partnership. Not the glossy magazine cover version of partnership, but the unglamorous, occasionally awkward, deeply funny version. The version where Mark openly admits the show has changed the rhythm of their marriage, joking in interviews about how their early call time has reshaped even the smallest domestic routines. The version where Kelly, without missing a beat, jokes right back. Neither of them flinches from the ordinary, slightly messy truth of what it's like to build a life with someone for almost 3 decades. They just say it out loud on live television and somehow it never feels like oversharing. Feels like honesty. That's worth pausing on because it's rarer than it sounds. A lot of long-married celebrity couples choose to protect the mystery, keep their marriage vague and photogenic, all soft-focus anniversary posts and vague words like grateful and blessed. Kelly and Mark chose the opposite path. They let people see the friction, the teasing, the eye rolls, the moments where one of them clearly wants to talk about something and the other one clearly doesn't. And somehow that choice has made their marriage feel more aspirational, not less, because it looks survivable. It looks like something ordinary people, watching from their kitchens before work, could actually recognize in their own relationships. Mark said something telling on the Oscars red carpet earlier this year, when asked why he sometimes waits to bring up hard conversations until they're on air. "When I'm really afraid to talk about something, I wait for the show," he admitted. "That way I have safety in numbers." Kelly, laughing, added her own version of the same idea. "Why have a difficult conversation privately when you can have it in front of an audience?" At first listen, that sounds like a joke. And it is a joke. But there's something quietly profound buried in it too. It suggests that somewhere along the way, their audience stopped being just an audience. Viewers became something closer to witnesses. People whose presence, oddly, makes certain conversations feel safer to have. That's an enormous amount of trust to place in millions of strangers. And it says a lot about how Kelly and Mark experienced their own relationship. Not as something fragile that needs to be shielded from public view, but as something durable enough to be lived out loud. It's also worth remembering that this isn't a couple who found each other in the spotlight and grew up performing togetherness for cameras from day one. They met on the set of a soap opera in their 20s, married quietly, built an entire life, 3 kids, multiple cities, careers that rose and dipped and rose again, long before Live with Kelly and Mark ever existed. The marriage came first. The show is something they added to an already established partnership, not the other way around. That ordering matters. It's part of why their dynamic on air doesn't feel manufactured for content. The relationship was never built for television. Television just happened to be lucky enough to capture it. So when a moment like Mark tearing up over a video from the family dog goes around online, it isn't really about the dog. It's about what that moment reveals, that after all these years, after all the fame and the milestones and the anniversaries, Mark Consuelos can still be caught completely off guard by something small and sincere, in front of the one person who's watched him go through every version of himself since he was a young actor with no idea what his life was about to become. Maybe that's the real reason audiences keep coming back morning after morning, year after year. Not for the segments or the celebrity interviews, but for the accumulating evidence of 2 people who chose each other decades ago and are still visibly glad they did. The small moments, a birthday tear, an old inside joke about a nose ring, a daughter's video message from across an ocean, add up to something bigger than any single headline. They add up to a portrait of a marriage that's been allowed to age in public, imperfectly and honestly, without ever losing its warmth. Perhaps the reason so many people remain invested in Kelly and Mark isn't simply because they've spent decades in the spotlight. It's because audiences continue to see something genuine in the way they navigate life together. And maybe that's why moments like this stay with viewers long after the cameras stop rolling. What's the Kelly and Mark moment that stayed with you the longest? Was it something funny, something emotional, or something that just felt real? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to know which one you carry with you.